UIC.
Freedom the people of need.
Hell yeah.
Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah,
Yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road.
And good night. Greetings to all great people of our sacred planet. Tonight we have a very, very superb interview, out of view, with the United Independence Congress President, Mr. Joseph L. Patterson. And I will call it the reasoning. So whatever you're doing, I trust that a lot of you are home now and so on. Make sure you have your bottle of water or not necessarily any particular brand, but have your water if you pop in some corn. Of course, not the artist, but the one that you eat. Do so. Do so. If you're having some soup, having a little snack, good. Make sure you have everything with you and nothing is left either in the kitchen or wherever. Make sure you have all your snack. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell auntie to tell uncle. Tell wife to tell husbands. Tell brother to tell sister. Tell cousins to tell their neighbor. The United Independence Congress is in your home. We're in your car. We're in your offices. Wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to all those right across the planet. It's still one Jamaica. It is still one United Independence Congress. It is still many constant candidates, but it is always one Babatunde, one Joseph L. Patterson, one Charlotte Patterson. Good. So tonight, we're going to just reason the United Independence Congress, UIC. It's been a whole heap of things, yeah, for a while. So we're gonna just reason. We'll just level it down and just hold a joyful reasoning. In the simplest of way. Yeah, so it's a reasoning simplified. And of course, Liberty TV is where you're watching this from on the YouTube channel. You may be on some other platform. Welcome. Sit with your wife, make sure the picnic them there. Get ready to take some notes. Field your questions. When it's all completed, you will know a lot more about Joseph Patterson. You'll know a lot more about the UIC. And you'll know a lot more about Sonia Mignant, who will be joining us shortly. We want to thank the production team, first of all, Naiko Williams. We want to thank Karen Babatunde. Yes. And so, yeah, are we this now? So, Sir Patterson. All right, so check on that mic, Sir Patterson.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Babatunde. Thank you very much for being on and for having me on tonight for our little chat. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Give thanks that you could have taken some time out of that hectic schedule of yours to facilitate a smooth reasoning. Will I call it just a simple way of expressing and sharing with the population things that we've been experiencing both as a nation and as the UIC in particular. So The reason going to start off like this. So President, just start by sharing with the audience how a Joseph Patterson came to existence from out of daddy's sperm into mommy's sacred womb. Um, give us that synopsis of how it all started for you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I can't give you a full blow-by-blow description, but I will I will I will say that I'm hearing some feedback there. I'm not sure something going on. I hear some frying.
All right, let me get that out of the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Remove live chat.
And I'm noticing I'm not seeing the chat section going here. Maybe Miss Williams can look into that. I'm not seeing our chat.
Yeah. So I have this thing right. Okay, let's see if we can. Okay, cool. Yes.
And normally on our end, I would see the persons in the chat section going, but I'm not seeing anything there. But in any event, to answer your question, so I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, August the 2nd, 1971, to Ruth Elizabeth Williams and Joseph Patterson Sr. My parents weren't married, so I was the third child for a single mother, and I did not meet my father until I was about 9 years old, and I went to live with him when I was about writing a letter to my mother to tell her that it's time for my father to pick up the responsibilities that she had shouldered for 11 years. So that's pretty much my early kickoff. I went to Dunrobin Primary School. It's up at Constant Spring Road there. I failed the common entrance twice, as well as the technical entrance. So I was what you call a pretty dunce. At least that's what I was called. Back in the day. But I did learn to read very early because I had a grandmother who insisted when I spent time with her that I read the headlines and the headline story of the Gleaner before she would give me the comic strip. So that incentivized me to years old. I was already reading quite well, but I did not have a great interest in schoolwork. I was more interested in the world around me, so I read widely. I had a neighbor when I moved up to Washington Boulevard and Malines Road area. I was living in an area where some expatriates were, some white people from England. And when they came back from one of their vacations, one of the daughters gave me a big book called Tell Me Why, big yellow book. And in it was an amazing amount of information about how the world works, how to think from cause to effect, how to question everything, always ask why. And so that was my big eye opener. So I tend to be more interested in the world around me than in the academic that I had in school at the time. I found it to be a bit boring, but
All
I
right.
think, yeah.
All right, pause a little. Can you recall the author of that book? Tell Me Why.
No, I can't. It was a very popular book, I think, for people of certain standing in society at the time. But I don't think it's one person either. I think it's a number of, because it's almost like an encyclopedia, but it was written in a more friendly tone than an encyclopedia. All
right, I see I warm up nicely now. I see you come out on the track. 100-meter line, you're ready. But before we run off into that aspect of things, you have whole heap of supporter, females and males. Want to know which basic school that I attended.
Yes. I attended Miss Johnson Basic School, which was down in Marvelly. Marvelly is a tough area in Kingston at the time, very hot politically. So I went to Miss Johnson Basic School, a lovely lady that really took a great interest in her students. Yeah.
Are you able at this time to recall Miss Johnson's first name?
No, I can't recall. I never knew her first name. It was never even mentioned. She was just Miss Johnson to all of us.
All right, big up to Miss Johnson.
Yeah, and my teacher, the teacher that I admired the most, that I probably had a crush on, even in basic school, a teacher named Miss Dorothy, and she was such an adorable lady, Miss Dorothy. I remember her distinctly because we went to the beach once. They had a trip, the little outing we go on these trips, and at that outing, she was attacked by a shark. So I particularly remember that experience because she was a great swimmer. And yeah.
Okay. So she survived that.
Yes, she survived. It was spotted before it got close enough, and she was able to swim fast enough to come up. That was my first encounter with seeing a shark in Jamaican waters. So that was an interesting experience.
Excellent, excellent. All right. So from the basic school now, which one of the parent them or guardian you were living with at the time?
My mother, my single mother. We lived in a one room house, 12 by 12. Two windows, one door. No indoor kitchen, no indoor plumbing, no indoor toilet. So we had an outside bathroom. And when we go to bed, it's all of us on the bed. Me and my brother and sister. You sleep head to toe, kind of thing. And we learned to survive in that kind of environment. I lived in that environment until age 11.
All right. So growing up in that sort of situation now, most of the ones them were growing in Jamaica can know and relate and see that sort of situation. Because enough of us grew up in the board house. Them time they had the one room, maybe two bed if things never so bad. I always say bed now we are talking about is a piece of plywood with a piece of mattress put on it and a sheet and thing. And if our three siblings, the whole enough to share that and thing, mommy and daddy bed me a little different. Them time they are spring bed.
Yeah.
That's how you go, Joseph.
Yeah, man, that's how you go, definitely.
All right. So from them time there, so you live with mommy, you go school and thing now. I was depressed.
No,
living in that situation.
No, I wasn't depressed at all. I remember being very aware. I mean, at the age of 7, I was very, very aware, very conscious of things. I remember saying to my mom, at around 7, I told her that I was going to get rich and take her out of poverty, and I was dead serious about it. She laughed, right? I said, "Mommy, when I grow up, I'm going to get wealthy, and I'm going to take you out of this situation." And she said, "Yes, son," and so on. And I mean, I used to go to the church called Rehoboth Gospel Assembly up at Washington Boulevard there, and Mr. White was the pastor. There's a lovely lady there, that's my Sunday school teacher, really charming lady. And I remember her saying to me, she told the story of Joseph, and of course I'm Joseph, and the story of Joseph really appealed to me. Right. Things like the fact that he was very principled. He was able to withstand and overcome even an attempt by his own brothers to kill him, and how he rose to greatness in Egypt and took care of his people, as well as other nations were benefited from his great wisdom and insight. And he was a dreamer, somebody who saw into the future. And so I was guided by him. It became a part of my whole being, recognizing that all of us are called to a purpose and we need to be ready to do what we can to help others.
Right. So while we know say a lot of ones are listening, so for the newer set of generation ones them now, that story where you hear the president relating to is actually in the Bible. And so those of you who may be into church, or even if you're not into church, is a book that a story that you can go and read for some self-empowerment. And you will see now when you match that with how the president actually is, then you see the outline clearly. So all right, so you go on now, you come up, basic school, primary. What age you started in terms of high school now, or maybe secondary it was at the time?
Yeah.
What age that was?
So that would have been around 13. I went from Dunrobin Primary when I ran away to live with my father in Meadowvale in uh, Portmore. I
What
went to
inspired that?
geez. I after visiting his home and seeing where he lived, he had a nice 3-bedroom home with satellite dish and big TV and refrigerator and more than one bathroom inside and nice kitchen and living room. I said, what is, so I got home and I wrote a letter to my mom and just say, no, sir, it's time for this man to take up some responsibility too. So I went to live with him. And he was happy for that because he was happy to get back at my mom. It's like, see him come live with me, and so he was quite different. He didn't, Anyway, so that happened, and I was there. I failed the technical entrance there at Gregory Park College, and then my father kind of switched a bit because he now realized that I wasn't bright, and he wanted a bright son. I was dunce. I can't write properly. I can't spell properly. I can't do maths properly. And at that time, I had two stepsisters, and they were just blazing a trail. They were doing very well, and they got government scholarship, passed to go to prestigious high school. And here I was, a dunce, my father's only, or my father's first son, and I'm a dunce.
Yeah.
So he was trying to get me into Dimtil Technical. He was trying to pay somebody, under the table to say, just put him in there, because. And my stepmother said, it's pointless. There's no point paying money for him to go to a high school. Him can't do much with him head, so might as well send him somewhere to do something with his hands. So that's how I was enrolled at Spanish Town Secondary. At which point my father became completely disassociated from me from an academic standpoint. He just saw me as child labor. So I was used to do, I was used to do things in his business, like, clean the bar, pack the shelves, check off the cashiers. So he was no longer interested in me academically. It was
All
more
right,
just,
hold up.
yeah.
Just don't lose that point.
Yeah.
We're on the point of daddy now being uninterested in him. Own and Pitney, just because I'm not up to that bright standard the way I expect. We have seen some of the audience have comment about the audio not clear.
Okay.
Sir President, are you able to hear I clearly? I am hearing you clearly.
I'm hearing you clearly, very clearly. So I have no problems here.
All right. So audience, sometime it may be your device, maybe your internet connection is not strong enough. So communicate again. Let us know if it has improved and so on. Maybe you have to move around to a particular corner of the house. If you're in Jamaica, if you're not, maybe you just keep watching until it improves. All right, Sir President. So you're on the subject matter of daddy now being uninterested in I'm on a picnic, just show him not upon that brightness level the way him expect. Before we return to that, how did the absence of daddy, when you say absence now, we are talking about not being present in the home with mommy, affected the eye?
To be honest with you, many of the children I was going to school with, or a lot didn't have fathers either, so it wasn't terribly painful in that sense. But I had a great mother who tried to be mother and father to all of us. She was superwoman. I mean, that lady did anything to take care of her kids. The only thing she couldn't do, she couldn't help us with our schoolwork because she was always working.
Yes.
So I was never able to get any help with any of my class. I can't recall my mother sitting with me and helping me with my schoolwork. She always encouraged me. So I think not having a father, she had to work very hard to provide for the family. And I think she only had an education up to about the 9th or 10th grade. And so, she wasn't able to help me. But when I met my father, it was a strange feeling because I'm not used to that, having a father. So I recall he was even upset that I wouldn't call him daddy when because I don't see the value. I couldn't make that connection to call him It didn't make sense to me. So I think a dad is somebody who you have a good relationship with. My daughters call me daddy, and they say it easily.
True.
I could never say that easily for my father because we just never had that level of relationship.
All right. Back to now the rejection of daddy.
Yeah.
Of the owner Pitney. You can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Sure. So, I mean, when my stepmother pointed out that I couldn't do much with my brain, so I had to go to a school. I should go to a school where I could do more with my hands. And I was placed at Spanish Town Secondary. I quickly realized that Spanish Town Secondary was a school where it's a dumping ground of rejects. Yeah. When I was a boy in primary school, I wanted to go to Calabar or JC or Wolmer's or KC. I particularly was a fan of Calabar and KC at the time, but
Okay.
that wouldn't be. So when I went to Spanish Town Secondary and I heard what my stepmother said, it clicked in my brain and it triggered something in me that said, I can do better. I can do something with my brain, not just my hands. So when I went to that school, I immediately went on a mission to transform the school. So I empowered my fellow students to start to think differently. I tell them, you're no different from the other kids at the high school. It's just that we're not being socialized the same way. So we have to change our behavior. So I brought in the science club. I created the science club, founded that. I created drama club. I created a debating society. I entered us into school challenge quiz, and just got the school engaged. So it really changed the temperature of the school. I became head boy, and
All right. So hold it now. Head boy is where you're the one.
yeah.
So stepmom said, she complained to your father about your ability to do work, school work. In a them time that when you go to school, which year that was?
Oh, that
Before
would
you
have
reached
been,
this.
yeah. I entered Spanish Town Secondary 1 year late, 1984.
Good. Hold it that's
Yeah.
now. In a 1984, we know the empowerment of the dark race, the various movement was in high gear, Black Panther, the effects of Malcolm X and them great ones there. Did that play any type of role or did it affect you in any positive way?
I tell you something. Yes, it did, but in a different way. I was never, because of that book I got, the Tell Me Why book,
Yeah.
which was more of a liberal book, very liberal. It had opened my mind to be very accepting of all people. So I was never the kind of person that was angry against whites, for example. I wasn't an angry black child. I was a thinking black child that said, listen, if they can do it, we can do it too. So I was more focused on what we can do too. So I was impressed by people like Marcus Garvey, which focused on saying, don't seek equality. You don't need to try to prove that you're equal with anybody. What you need to do is to make sure you have your freedom and be industrious with that freedom, be creative with that freedom, be productive with that freedom. So that carried through with me and inspired me to focus on me being industrious and creative than me being, let's say, hateful of whites or having a desire to see them. I didn't have any hate. I was more focused on the productivity side. How can I be a producer? How can I be my full self and help my fellow men to also be their full self? I buck up on a tape. I found a tape once by a man named Napoleon Hill from the book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, it was unusual
Hold
for a
on, hold on,
person my
hold on.
age. Yeah.
You broke a little bit, Mr. President, so just come back with the name of the book
Yes, it's
and then you
called
continue.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So I kind of buck up on that book. Not even a book, it was an audio tape. I don't even know how I found it, maybe on the road. It was an accident. And I had just gotten the Walkman in those days, Walkman. And
Yes.
I had an old one that I had found and fixed up and got it to work. I don't even know how I got it, but it's an old one. And it was one tape out of a series of tapes. So I only got one tape. And in that one tape, he was talking about auto-suggestion, how you
Right.
can program your own mind to be what you want to be before you become it. And so I entered into that
True.
domain where I started programming my mind to be positive. I can.
Yes.
I tell myself I can do this. And then I start to set goals and objectives, just like the book was saying. And that really changed my life because now, but regardless of all the problems around me, I found that I was ultimately responsible for me and can control my outcome.
Excellent. What age did I return a little bit now to the Spanish Town Secondary, which is now Spanish Town High School experience. What age you enter in the institution there?
So I got there when I was around 13, 12 going 13, and I was there until 16 plus.
Which age you
Um,
say you would have master? Go ahead.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Which age you say you would have say you master reading now in terms of you became competent at reading and expressing thyself?
Well, that happened very early because if you had met me as a child, like 3 years old, from people used to always tell my mother, "Ruth, where you get the boy from?" They used to say, "A foreign him come from," because my my speaking, the way I
Yeah.
spoke was different. I was never, to be honest with you, I was never a good. I can speak patois very well, but that was never my first go-to. Like you meet some children, and their first go-to is patois.
Yeah,
Uh,
because that's the native language, yeah.
Exactly, that's the native language. But I think because of my grandmother with back in those days, the Gleaner was very particular about the use of language, yeah, the way they wrote and everything. And that's
True.
what I developed. So because she had me reading the Gleaner every time before I could get the comic strip, I developed that language and way of speaking. And then when I got the book, Tell Me Why at age 7, which is a big
Mhm.
book, it's a thick book, and so my vocabulary kind of exploded as well as my thinking because back at 7 I'm reading about how rainbows are formed, like the science behind it, not the mystical ideas of saying, well, God put a rainbow to remind people that he will never flood the earth again. That
Yeah.
wasn't the way this book talked. This book was about, no, what you're seeing is refraction of light rays, and
Okay.
when the light ray different and it's explaining all of that. And so that was, so at 7, that's the kind of thinking that I was having. No, I wasn't doing well in school because I wasn't following the path. So school have a path where a rigid path, but I was off. So by the time I was now 9, my mother took me to Tom Rincombe Library and also the library up in Duane Park, and I
Mhm.
joined. I was the only one of her 3 children who had any interest in joining the library. Then I
Yes.
started borrowing books. I was reading books on Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Napoleon Bonaparte, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, J.D. Rockefeller. So I was reading all of these books about all these different men and women who did Marie Curie, who did phenomenal things. And so
Right.
I was more, interested in learning that kind of stuff. So I did more reference books. I did more autobiographies. I loved science, so so I would read my physics book. I would read math book like I read a novel. Like I'd read. I want to understand the theory behind it. The not the theory, the first principles, the history. How did Pythagoras come to develop the Pythagorean theorem? I wanted to understand not just how to do the math problem, the history behind it. Where did this come from? What is
Yes.
Euclidean geometry? Why is it named after him? And
Mhm.
so those were the things that really intrigued me as a child growing up.
Excellent. All right, now. So the audience I follow very keenly. Spanish Town High School. Just complete the experience there. I mean, you
Sure.
start at 13, you did it till 16. You
Yeah, it
mentioned
was a
about how you
powerful.
impacted the school because of your empowerment. Give
It
us
was
some
a
more of that.
powerful. It was a powerful experience. You're talking about changing everything. The school was a dull school. It was just a school of dunce children. That's the way we were described. Teachers who had little or no interest in the kids because they were so unruly and not going anywhere. And all of that changed overnight. Overnight, you had a school where we now had a science club and people involved in science experiment and trying to enter competition. You had a drama club where they're now organizing skits and plays to reflect real life. You had a full body student council. And then what would happen now? I led the students to start to say they have rights. They also have responsibility. They should take responsibility for their own learning. So we now start to go beyond teachers. Teachers now also had to be more careful because one teacher, for example, a student teacher used a duster and hit a student in one of her class. And I took that all the way up. She had to apologize in front of the school because the teacher had to apologize in front of the student body at one of her devotion sessions if she didn't do that, I was going to make sure she lose her job, right? So we went through that process. She and I became good friends afterwards. It was a lovely experience, But the students realized now that they had a responsibility and they had authority, they had power. They're not powerless, and so we started studying, we started learning, and we did very well. I think it's the first year we had so many people passing external exams in that school.
So you would have said then the Spanish Town High School experience is pivotal into the development of the individual we're now looking at and the world now know as Joseph Patterson.
Yes, that it changed my life forever, and I think it changed a lot of people's lives as well. My wife, I met her while I was at Spanish Town Secondary. I met her in the 8th grade. We've been married for 28 years now, and we've been friends. At Spanish Town Secondary, I was the head boy. She was deputy head. She was the head girl. I was student council president. She was the secretary. I was science club president. She was the secretary. Quiz team captain. She was one of the key supporters for that. So she has always been by my side, and she has been a key factor in my personal development from school until today.
Hold on on that now. Jamaica and the world. Whether you're there, Ethiopia, or Ghana, or Canada, the Caribbean, Europe, Australia, wherever. The earth set for function a particular way, male to female, female to male. You see how our president light up when he begin to talk about the experience with Mrs. Charlotte Patterson. And why we pause it, because we are sure we want to point out to the audience that no matter how great you're going to be or whatever, first we have to come out a woman and a man, and then we take on a certain culturalization. And so no society must ever force males to fight against females or females to fight against male. Why you give us some more of that story there, because that thing it have get up the fire pan now, the love pan now, steamy. So, Sir President, when you saw this adorable goddess princess, you can recall what the first word you said to her?
Yes, when I saw her, I must tell you, and she was the cleanest, prettiest, vibrant, disciplined, outstanding person in the entire classroom. I mean, she was a magnet. I was completely fixated on her. I think she pretended as if she didn't see me. She behaved as if, I nothing and things. So I remember the first time I tried to speak to her was actually I snuck up behind her and gave her a kiss on the cheek. And she gave me a big box in the classroom, I tell you. A big box in the classroom. So that was my first encounter. My first, I saw her and
hold on. It get the juice about to come out. Wait now. So youths, listen carefully to the president of the United Independence Congress and take notes. So president admired the daughter from a longer time. Now, President come up with a way and say, yo, she ignore me too long enough. And him approach her and kissed her on the cheek. I hope I make note of you to see the result one. Focus on that part there, the response. How Charlotte responded after being given a surprise kiss. So minus the part they know when you know how to approach the daughter them and thing. Must be words and so on, communicate your interest and so on. Okay, so on to Joseph, get a box. Run it, President. It's interesting. Go on. On the same part, you know.
Yeah, so after that, I mean, after that encounter, we started to talk and develop a friendship. We were friends first. Whenever when we just talk to each other and get to know each other, and then by the end of the 8th grade, we decided that we were a good fit for each other. And I remember when we were leaving high school. Now the year
No,
we
wait.
yeah.
After that encounter where you kissed her and you got a box gift.
Yeah.
How no move from that point now? Talk us
So
through that part.
we really just started talking to each other, and we started to spend time together, sit closer together in class, start to share notes and share. She was very helpful with my lessons because she had a much better handwriting than me. So she'd help me to write stuff.
Right.
I could talk, I could dictate, and she would write, and we developed into a team. Right here in school. We just started to work together. She was very good at English while I was stronger at mathematics.
Okay.
She was stronger at literature. I'm stronger in the sciences. So we would, help each other with that. And I used to teach her sometime on the weekends, and we'd always have a fight, because I'm a tough teacher, and we would fight and stuff, and then make up and whatever, because
fight, nothing physical, just
no, just arguing and stuff, and she gets vexed and say, "All right, nobody tell me nothing more," because I have to explain a math problem, and they said, "Look, see it, man, and whatever, and stuff." So that's how we developed, and we just naturally worked together at just about everything. It was amazing when they made us head boy and head girl, because we had no idea that they would. It was kind of obvious that I was going to be selected head boy after a while.
Yeah.
Because at Spanish Town Secondary, you actually become deputy head boy and head girl first to see if you're fit enough to be head boy and head girl. So we were both deputies before, and so we were shocked at that, and we just kind of grew together. So we became friends, really good friends, and we worked well together. Yeah.
So we are going good now, and we see the artists put on the audience, put on the popcorn and the drinks and a tuning. So importantly, we want to make known and point out and emphasize the response. So after President said this chocolate, this rose, this angel, whatever adjective you want to use to describe her, we make an approach which wasn't the best one, and the response was a box. Now, you notice him didn't respond and start a fight with her, physical fight, and some males. Come now, boys. Boy, them in the school. Some of you in the universities too, and so on. We know the situation, male to female. We know what they sort of experience. We know how impactful females are on us. Pivotal to take note. Even with the box and the side of the jar roast like breadfruit, it didn't turn out into a fight. So take notes of those things. All right, so moving on now. You all developed and your head boy, she's head girl. When you communicate closely and so on, you left Spanish Town at 16. What happened to this relationship? And make don't double barrel the question. When you left Spanish Town, what happened thereafter?
Well, I went on to St. Anne Technical High School because I had passed a test to go there. That school had a program where they took in the brightest of the batch from the secondary school into a trades program. So I went there, and Charlotte, her mother was already living in Canada, so her mother had filed for her, and so she went to live with her mother in Canada. So we were now separated. But before we got separated, we made a vow to each other that when we finished college, we would get married. And so,
Wow.
yeah. So even though we lived apart, you know, yeah. We as soon as we finished college later on, then we got together and got married as we had vowed to each other back in grade 10.
All right, we're going to come back to that. I'm not seeing the questions from the audience, so if you are seeing it on your side.
No, I'm not seeing it, but I think Naika can bring it on, and I think we have Sonia Mignat and Mark Cameron on here with us, so they can always come in. And,
All right, so they have joined. Oh,
oh yes,
excellent.
they've been
All right.
waiting patiently in the room.
What?
Yeah, so
All right. Sonia, welcome. Fix your camera a little bit. Excellent. Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
I wasn't aware that you're both on, so I'm going to take a pause. We're going to bring Sonia in. Introduce yourself to our audience. Mark, thereafter, you'll do the same after Sonia complete, and then it will be your time to throw in some questions, Mark, and then I'll join in again. So go ahead, Sonia.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Positive Uniters. I'm Sonia. I live in, I'm in Toronto right now.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Good. Go ahead.
Is there anything that you want to ask directly?
Yeah, I'll come to that again, but we want you to throw in a question now for our president.
Okay. Personal or something regarding the UIC?
Anything you want to ask him. The world is getting to know him, like we say in the introduction, a closer look at the president of the United Independence Congress. Follow suit, Mark, because you will be doing the same thing after Sonia completing her questions and so on. So go ahead, Sonia. President is on.
Okay, Mr. Patterson, I admire you very much since I found out about the UIC last October. I found out about the UIC one Sunday morning while I was watching Running Africa, and Kabu had you on. Jamaica had a third political party, and wow, that really what? So that got my attention. Looked into it and hooked up with Devon at the time, and then I was coming to Jamaica, and Devon hooked me up with the team in Portmore. And after that, I started following you, listening to your videos, and our lives is somewhat similar, especially in the beginning part of our lives, right? A single mom and everything, but I migrated to Canada at a young age, right? And yeah, and the thing that I wanted to ask you though is like, I was thinking about how the tenacity that you have after getting here in Canada, going through all that stuff, finding a job, and still find it within yourself to accomplish those goals. How did you, manage to do all those things? Because even I, who grew up in Canada, didn't, So
yeah, I think from the time that I failed common entrance twice and technical entrance and was told by that I can't use my brain but my hands, and later on
right,
another teacher, I have this built-in drive in me to achieve anything that is said to be impossible. So the harder
okay,
the challenge, the more I rise to it. I don't back down. I don't give up. I'm the kind of person who will die trying. I don't believe in giving up. I will step back if I see a situation where, for example, in the UIC, when I felt that persons were kind of believing that maybe somebody else could better lead the party, I step back and say, hey, sure, come forward, because
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of that, and I'm not afraid of being contested. I'm not afraid of anything like that. So I am in Canada, regardless of the odds, I was determined to succeed, to overcome every challenge, whether it's unemployment or, you might have heard me in other times talk about racism. And I tell people in Canada, I have never experienced racism, which is weird because you hear,
Very weird because I've
yeah,
experienced that,
yeah, I've
so many
never,
times.
because what I found that people will hire you if you're good.
Mm-hmm.
A person may have a problem because you're not a part of their culture. Like Chinese
Right.
will naturally have an affinity to Chinese, whites to
Mm-hmm.
whites, blacks to, but you'll hope blacks to blacks, but sometimes that's another story. So, but in my experience, I found the more I build myself, the more I became competent, was the
Mm-hmm.
easier for me to rise through the chain in Canada. So, for example, when I was only 35, I was already director of finance in the government. When the
Mm-hmm.
the average age in that position was around 50. Like the average
Right.
age is 50. So, but how did that happen? Because I applied myself. I was never afraid to challenge myself to do better. And I never have
Right.
in my mind that I never think to myself, oh, I'm not going to get this job because I'm black. I never have those
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. My wife and I would always have these discussions. And
Right.
she said, don't you see any racism? I would say, that's not in my mind. All I'm focused on is I'm going to show that I can do the job and then leave the rest
Yeah.
in the hands of God, if you will.
All right, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
All right, Sonia, I know you will have other questions, but we just
Right.
want to bring Mark in now. So make a note of those questions that you have. Sonia will be
Okay.
coming back to you. Mark, greetings. Welcome to Liberty TV. Welcome to the United Independence Congress. We call it The Reasoning. We just reveal some more things about our president and so on, as the world look on, particularly the natives of this great land. Just introduce yourself to the audience and go ahead with your question.
I left, my name is Mark Cameron, as you said. I left Jamaica in '79. I was pulled away from my country by my parents, who followed the lies by the opposition that Jamaica was going communist, and I couldn't wait to get back to Jamaica. When I came back to Jamaica, I saw a level of dysfunction that prompted me to write a lot of posts about how we could make things different. I use my talents. I'm an artist, visual artist. I'm also a chef, and I also build houses. So I've always been very involved in the activism side of the arts. I went before Parliament 9 years ago when I saw a lot of dust going into Mile Gully. And it was the first time in the history of Jamaica where a resident, one person, had the entire bauxite management in Parliament listen to what I had to say. So I too, like Mr. Patterson, I don't take no for an answer. I can more deal with impossible, but can't is a word I don't deal with very well. Long story short, in my dialogue on Facebook about what is wrong with our government, I met with Mr. Patterson. We seemed aligned on a variety of things in Jamaica. And he talked about starting United Independence Congress. And I, by default, became the first vice president. It should be known that I do not like politics. I do not like the culture around politics. I dream that one day the head of Jamaica will be like the postmaster general. We don't know who it is, but we get the mail delivered. I believe that there's too much emphasis on who is running and less accountability as relates to the Jamaican people. We are still suffering. They talk about Jamaica being out of many, we are one. We are not one. A lot of Jamaicans are suffering and a few people are doing very, very well. And they're doing very well because of their alignment with government. So from that standpoint, I've been very active. I love my country. And most of all, I want to see a better Jamaica in my lifetime. I was born in 61. I'll be 61 in June. And on the 6th month. So it's 666 in a good way. You understand? So I don't take foolishness. I don't like to see foolishness. And I don't like to be associated with foolishness. The UIC manifesto is a very solid manifesto. I told Mr. Patterson, and I've said this on a number of occasions, whoever adopts the UIC manifesto will have my vote.
Yeah.
I'm not into the party foolishness. Although I voted for the two political parties, JLP and PNP. So it was very refreshing to find someone like Mr. Patterson, who was aligned with me on many things as relates to changing the trajectory Jamaica was on. So having said that, I have a lot of people on my page that have field questions to me about internal squabbles that should not have gone public.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everybody have said this, that the UIC manifesto is very important to them, and they love the manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, like some things have happened, in creating a political party. By the way, I was the first vice president. I don't know if I mentioned that before, or maybe I'm repeating what I just said.
Yeah, you said that, but emphasis is
okay.
Good.
Yeah. Anyhow, we put together processes that will ensure that even if a crook got into a movement, it's not going to work out for them, because the process is not going to allow you to benefit at the expense of the Jamaican people. So it was one of the most crucial elements of the UIC to make sure that, because the process today is what allows these people to become criminals.
Uh-huh.
It allows them to use loopholes to get around the system to be enrich themselves. Most politicians today are rich out of politics. They're going broke. Most of them going fairly broke and come out rich. And we can't continue as a country like that. Anyhow, putting all that aside,
yes.
The integrity of this movement is very, very important to me, and most of the people that are associated with me.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to be involved in any organization that doesn't represent what I believe in, because when I testify for the UIC, people are listening to me based on my integrity and what I feel about the movement.
True.
Because I was there from the beginning. And Mr. Patterson and I have had several conversations about image, how things look, the processes that we put in place to ensure that full transparency, all of those things that I find very important. And we both agree that they were important.
Excellent.
So in the last couple of weeks, having heard a lot of questions from my friends and associates, there's some things that I'd like to clear up. And I believe that it was important that I asked Mr. Patterson these questions directly.
Excellent.
Like I said, I wasn't a part of the inner workings recently because I've been very busy with my own life. And I knew that UIC was in good hands. I met a couple of the candidates. I met Devon, I met Marvin, who I marched with in Mandeville. I don't know what transpired between Mr. Patterson and Marvin and everybody else, but there's a lot of things that went down that was very disheartening. It was hurtful.
Yeah.
Because I saw unity. I saw unity based on a platform that we all believed was the best. And all of a sudden, man, I just felt really hurt about what I saw. Anyhow, there's some questions that I have from my friends that I'd like to have answered. And the first one is as relates to the bank account for the UIC.
Yeah.
When I spoke to Mr. Patterson about the bank account early on, because I thought it was important that there is a complete separation with the UIC funds, our own personal funds, and accountability and transparency and an independent audit. That was important to me, and as expressed by Mr. Patterson as well. So the first question I have is, why did we not open a separate account for the UIC? Why is it tied up in Mr. Patterson and his wife's account? And does anybody else have access to those funds outside of Mr. Patterson and his wife? That's the first question.
Go ahead, Mr. President, your time. All right, Mike, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, thanks for that question, Mark. And all the persons who have been involved with the UIC from the beginning until now are fully conversant with the banking situation and the accounting situation. The UIC has never been granted a commercial bank account after several attempts with all the different banks, Scotia, NCB, JMMB, Jamaica National, you name it. We have reached out to all of them to try to open an account. I did a very full interview on this. In fact, I've done several interviews on this, on Running Africa, on Best FM, on Love FM, on CVM, and I've explained prior to now, long before now, and every single solitary member of the leadership of the organization from day one to now know that we were not granted a bank account to operate in Jamaica. All the founding members and organizers of the UIC knew that the PayPal account that we use was donated by my wife to the UIC because the UIC had no ways of receiving funds from around the world because we had no account for that. Back in the days when that account was set up, the banking world was also very difficult towards Jamaica and towards political organizations. So they would not allow you to set up an account on PayPal for an independent group called UIC. Worse for it to be in Jamaica. So that's how we ended up having my wife donating her PayPal account to the organization, and we've been using it ever since. So all of our treasurers, all of our executive members, everybody knew that. That was not a secret, and it was also a great sacrifice that my wife gave up her account. You know, when you set up these accounts back then, it was a treasure to get one of those accounts back then. It has gotten more easier now for a person to set these up now, but you're talking 10 years ago. And so over that period, we have had that account being used.
All right, hold on, Mr. President.
Yes.
I want you to go a little bit more in depth.
Sure.
In terms of the process that Mrs. Patterson went through prior to her handing over the bank account to the organization known now to the world as UIC.
When you say process, what do you mean?
All right, so on one of your meetings, I think it was at the AMC,
Mm-hmm.
you did comment about this. So you said prior to handing it over to the UIC, she cleared out her funds.
Okay, right. Let me stop you there. There are two different accounts. So I was just talking about one first. I'll talk about the other one after. So the PayPal account was our primary account for years, because most of our funding came from the diaspora and not so much on the local scene. So that has been there for years. Then in September, when we got into the March for Liberty, and we had the issue with me being arrested, all of a sudden now many Jamaicans locally wanted an account to put money in. So before PayPal was an international account where people in the diaspora found it easy to do, but locally now persons wanted an account to put money in, and we had no account. We had opened an account with PC Bank, that is a kind of a credit union, but
Yeah.
and that is in the UIC's name, but it was limited. You have to physically go there, and deposit money or withdraw. So we're way past that today in modern times. But so in September, my wife then donated our Scotia account now to the UIC because it had no account. And so what she did was to make sure she take out all of our personal funds, and this account was given totally to the UIC. Now, because it's our personal account, for you to get access to it, you'd have to key in our password and username, which will give you access to that plus our other accounts. So we could never give those credentials to anybody. So what was done every month is that the statement was provided, the information was provided to the treasurer that they could see what is there. And the same thing for the PayPal account, the full statements were provided to the treasurer so that he could see what is there, and the board as well if they wanted to. We also made sure that the treasurer and any member of the board could also see a visual screen of what is in the account if they wanted to. So there was never ever a case of any commingling. The first audit that was done by one of the persons who are now a part of the misinformation media. So she would have been there. She did the audit, so she knows all of what I'm saying. In fact, the treasurer was a part
Mr. President.
Sorry? Yeah?
Mr. President.
Yeah.
Winston here. How you doing?
Oh, great. Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. We have our chairman joining in.
Yes, sir.
Welcome,
I
Winston.
hear you answering the question, and I appreciate your forthrightness, but I never like to hear you answer that question, and here's why.
Yeah.
We have had two treasurers, and I remember the day the first one joined after I did. The instruction was, get us a bank account, and to the day that first treasurer left, the question was still asked, the task was still asked, have you gotten an account? The last answer was, we went to the bank and they asked for your membership list and so on and so on. And your instruction was quite clear. that we don't need to give them confidential information because our membership information is confidential. We just need to prove KYC. So speak to the bank and understand exactly what is needed so we can provide that, because we need to create that separation. And the day that person left, it wasn't done. The second treasurer came on the same instructions, and it was always, I'm too busy, I'm too busy, I'm too busy. All right? When all of this brouhaha started, I walked into one bank one day. I happened to be in an area, and I went to do a transaction with my debit card, and I just walked up to the customer service rep and asked what I needed to open an account. And I didn't specify that it was UIC, but I specified that it was a political movement. And I was given a list, and I handed that list to the treasurer. Right? This would be the treasurer before the last treasurer. And again, she didn't act on it. Nobody wants to open an account for the UIC for whatever reason. But most importantly, before that, the excuse was no bank wanted to give us an account. This has nothing to do with the president and the account that he has used. I personally have put monies into those accounts for UIC business, and the UIC business was done. These bank accounts were audited. The operations of the UIC was audited for each year that we need to register. It has to be audited. And that audit certified and submitted to the ECJ. And every year, including this year, right now, that audit has passed with flying colors. Absolutely no abnormality. No
All right.
malfeasance.
Excellent, Chairman. That clarification helped greatly. Sonia, we're coming back to you, but we just want to hear from Mark now to make sure that that question was answered fulsome. Mark, you heard the comments both from President Patterson and from the UIC Chairman, Winston Wright. Are you satisfied with that answer? Is there a follow-up?
Yeah, there's a follow-up. I have accounts in a couple of banks, and sometimes if I need to have somebody withdraw money from my account, in other words, if the account was given to the UIC, then we have the ability to change the password so anybody can have access to the account. So that is not privileged information. It's only privileged to those who are privileged to have the password, and those can be changed. In other words, passwords are not etched in stone. So if my password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I decide to give another person access to my account, and I change my password to 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, then they would be able to use to have access to that account if needed. But like you said, before, it's a very it's very challenging. The banking system is very challenging in Jamaica. I have to give you that.
So I'll go further than that, Mark, and say that it's not that the banking system in Jamaica is challenged. It is dysfunctional. The government had to go out the other day and created a separate tranche of accounts for poor people who could not meet the KYC requirements. And even now, those persons have still not been able to take up the government's solution to their problems. Any bank you go, I myself, as an aviation professional for the greater part of 25 years, have had problems opening a bank account in Jamaica. I have deposited my hard-earned money that I've made overseas in my account, and when I go there to withdraw it, the bank is telling me that I can't get it. I have to make a fuss. So the banking system in Jamaica is predatory because of what the government is doing, because of what is happening, because of the influence of special interest money. These banks only
that is true. That is so.
All right, hold on, Mark. We're just gonna allow the president to come in to answer that comments that you followed up with, or that question. So just allow President to come in now. Mr. President, go ahead.
Yeah, let us be clear that the real issue here is the insinuation that I and my wife somehow have held on to, well, first of all, that we have deliberately used a personal bank account and that we have deliberately prevented access to those accounts, and that somehow we have been able to misappropriate or otherwise, misuse the funds of the organization. That's the insinuation. And we need to be very careful with that. And I know Mark knows better than that, because at no point at all, at no time at all, did the organization have any issues about the bank account, like internally, until recently, when after some persons have now taken a different course, they have now brought these things to the fore. Now, what all of us should ask is, why didn't these persons bring these to the National Executive Council when they were on the board? Why didn't they? Because all of us, every time we have an NEC meeting, persons are allowed to add items to the agenda. So a treasurer, for example, could raise his hand and say, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add an item to the agenda. I would like to add the item of our bank account and the issues that, we don't have access to the bank account by Mr. Patterson, or they're using a personal account, or whatever it is. Any particular concerns that they had could have been raised at an NEC meeting. Now, the records will show that neither of those treasurers who are now our former treasurers or former VPs, neither of them have ever placed that item on the agenda. The records will also show that I have always placed the item on the agenda to ask that actions be taken to separate these accounts from myself and Mrs. Patterson. Now, Mark would know this very well. The only two persons who have remained consistent throughout the entire history of the UIC is my wife and I. So oftentimes, person will just get up, for example, and resign. They'll just leave the organization. They just, their life is busy. They have things to go and do with their family. Who wants to spend their time doing UIC stuff? So they will get up and go. Now, it always falls to us. I'll give you one example. The PC bank account was opened by Naima Grandison and another young lady from the UIC. She was treasurer at the time and he was vice president. They both opened that account. My name was not in it. Mrs. Patterson's name was not in it. When later on, they added my name was added to the account. And then when both of them left the organization, we had a problem, because now we no longer had signing officers except myself, and you needed 2 signatures to sign. So we had to hurriedly beg the person who left as treasurer to come back into the bank and add Mrs. Patterson, which is the only other constant we can have. Now, we're here today quarreling about the UIC because Mrs. Patterson and I have remained the one constant who carried every bucket of water, every piece of lumber, to make sure that the UIC is now here to be fought over. If we had not stayed the course through all this time and suffered all the privation and all the insults and all of the attacks and all of the issues, there'd be no spoils to fight over today. One thing is for certain. You see this audit here? This is the audit for 2021 in my hand. This is the audit document here. I'll show you the signature of the auditor. There it is, stamped and sealed and signed by the auditor. This is our audit for 2021. There is absolutely nothing at all that is found to be fraudulent or otherwise wrong with our books and accounts. The only
one more time, Mr. President. One more time. Show that to the world again. Bring it closer to the camera.
Yeah, here it is.
See so, the world. Have a look at that.
Signed and sealed by the auditor. Here's the front cover. Here's the front cover of our audit for 2021. Hope you can see it clearly, right? And just to show you the first statement, this is the balance sheet. This is the balance sheet. You can see the balance sheet here. I hope you can see clearly as best as I can, right? And it tells you the cash position. The cash position at the end of the year was $1.565 million. The previous year was only $38,341 in ending cash position. Now, as the organization begins to get better and begins to get prettier and begins to have more members, some persons might believe, you know what, maybe it's better now for us to have a different set of leaders. Maybe we need to get rid of Mr. Patterson now and take over this thing and run it ourselves, because they have different ambitions and different objectives. But the bottom line is, all those persons had to do is to run for president. We have now had 2 AMCs on here, 2 AMCs, and none of them have ever stepped forward and said, I want to be president. Why try to take the organization through the back door? Take it through the front door. Challenge me openly. They could have raised those questions in the NEC. They could have brought those questions to the AMC, which is the Annual Members Congress, and said, members, we have a problem, and brought those questions, brought those concerns to the members and said, members, Mr. Patterson is doing something wrong, and I'm running for president against him because he's doing something wrong, and here are the wrong things he's doing, and challenge me openly. That would be perfect. And then you, the members, now would have had a chance to ask all the questions and dig in and investigate, and would have had our meeting, and then you'd have a vote, and you'd vote for one of them or for me. They were cowards. So they didn't run for office. They hide behind innuendos and lies and try to mislead the public because they know our weakness. Our weakness is the corrupt system in Jamaica has withheld a bank account from us so that they could then draw this card because they're smart. They know if they tell people that we are use personal bank account, it is going to cause people to think twice. And they want to plant doubts into people's mind so that they pull back and stop donate because they realize since I've started until now, since from I started the UIC, when I first put online United Independence Congress, December 2012 until now, the UIC has now raised about, it's not a lot of money now, but about $10 million altogether now. From then until now. But and if you divide it up by the number of years, it's roughly about $1 million a year, but we didn't get it in those years. Back in the early days, I pay for everything. I remember it's not until 2018 that the organization started paying for its own internet and its own web hosting. Prior to all of that, every month, when nobody else not here, me have to reach into my pocket with no promise that one day the organization would succeed. I paid every bill that needed to be paid. I suffered every indignation that needed to be suffered. I went everywhere that needed to be gone to. And when it was time to register the party, it's me, Naima Grandison, his wife, and Mrs. Patterson, who got 1,300 persons to sign on to say, we want the UIC, and to put their name, their telephone number, their TRN, and their address, and to put their necks on the blocks and say, they're with us. 4 of us did that. And I went door to door. 1 second, Baba Tunde. I went door to door to door across the length and breadth of this country and created the UIC that some would now love to have for themselves. It not gonna work.
So now we're coming to you next.
Hold on
We're
there.
coming to you next, Sonia. Hold on, Mark. Just make a note. Don't forget that point, Mark. We want to get Sonia involved. So in about 30 seconds, Sonia, I want to share something with the audience. When you are doing the right thing, there are some methodology you follow.
Yes.
If you're doing the right, if you're about truth, you follow the right process, you do the right thing so you can get the right results. If you're about filthiness, infiltration, negativity, you do all sorts of things to try and get to the mountaintop. No, let that soak in, people. Think deeply about that. Sonia, your question regarding this topic that we're on.
Brother Babatunde.
Yeah, go ahead, Chairman.
Right. Sorry to interrupt. I have one point to make because I'm going to have to run to something else. I really need to say this.
Go ahead.
Firstly, the comment. I'm disappointed that persons, because I see persons in the chat trolling, keep asking these questions of the president when he has answered them clearly and consistently every time.
All right.
So that's my personal disappointment.
Hold on now, Chairman. Hold on. Could you share that chat with us? We're not seeing that chat on our thing here.
It's a YouTube chat, so I'm not sure.
Okay, all right, cool.
How to get that? I don't have control of the broadcast.
Okay, but before you leave, hold on, Mark.
I'm gonna have to run. Hold on. Now, persons in the quote unquote coup have confessed their willingness to strip Joseph of the party, and if they can't get it, to bring the party down. To do that, they have stolen information from the movement and have created a poison pen campaign to reach out to our donors and supporters to inject doubt in them so as they would stop supporting us. And they have stopped, some have. Some have doubled down because they realize what it is. But unfortunately, not everybody saw through the rules. Some have called me and asked the question directly, what is going on? And when I explain to them, they say, oh, but this is a non-issue. And I'm saying definitively and clearly to everyone, there are about 3 persons who are longer serving in the movement than I am. We are, and that excluding the president and his wife, right? We were there when each person came, especially those in the crew, when each of them came and left. And we know the level of ineptitude, note the word I used, and non-performance that was there. And because the president expressed that openly, and because they're not men and women enough to take that criticism, they use big words that they saw in the media without having full knowledge of the meaning of the word and the implication of it. But I say to everyone out there, be wise like the serpent, to borrow from the president, and look into things and know that it's better to unite behind a cause.
Winston, before you leave, Winston, before you leave, I want to make this abundantly clear to Mr. Patterson and yourself, and anybody who might be thinking in a similar fashion. When I've always been a supporter of the UIC, and Mr. Patterson will tell you that. And me and him, I go door to door, look, vote when him first start out, on the first campaign. You understand that? I spend my own money for going on Jamaica and campaign for Mr. Patterson. I spend my own money doing banners and printing T-shirts for the UIC, which I got some compensation from as well, but heavily subsidized. No, I'm talking initially, brethren. I must confess that I was not a part of the inner workings for a very long time. And he can tell you that. The questions I'm asking are pure. There's no innuendos or no insinuations on anything. I'm asking questions that were fielded to me by my supporters and our supporters. I want to make that very, very clear. Okay. I'm not one of those who are run down leadership, brethren. You understand that? Because me tell Mr. Patterson a long time. When he asks me if I want to become leader, I tell him no. I don't want to run for nothing. So I want you to understand that. I just want my country to work. I want my country to work.
Mark.
Yeah.
To share with you, when I knew about you before meeting you for the first time, and Mr. Patterson has nothing but kind words to share about you. He speaks about especially his past officers in very, very flattering way. And you number among them, Mark. So I know where your question comes from.
Yeah, it's coming from a pure heart. It's come from a pure heart, because when I heard this stuff
hold on, Mark. Hold on. Let him complete the point. Hold on.
Yeah.
So my ire is against those that have been sent by the detractor that is in the chat, trolling us, instead of listening and learning and coming together. Again, uniting behind cause instead of self. So those are the guys that draw my ire, Mark. So as I said, you are numbered as among those uniters that inspire a younger person. Note I said younger, I get in there. All right. So the strength and the work that you have done, that's the legacy that I'm working on. That is what is pushing me to defend my family and all the children in Jamaica. Okay, Mark?
Excellent point. Excellent.
Let me say this. Gratitude for the work that you have done, for the trail that you have blazed, for the path that you have established, that I can walk in and do it proudly.
See, Mark? All right, now, Mark. Hold it now, Mark. We know the fire light up around this up. A while now, we're not hear from Sonia. Sonia, your question for President.
Okay. Mr. Patterson, what would you say to those people who, because you speak highly of Singapore, and you make a lot of reference, you know, to Singapore. What would you say to those people who are saying that you want to turn Jamaica, the state of Jamaica, into a one-party state?
All right, Mike, Sir President. Mike, get your mic on,
Sorry. I keep muting myself to make sure that you don't get any feedback. But that's a good question, because I know people are misunderstanding.
Right.
The UIC is for a non-partisan constitutional republic. And what that means is that we're going to take the partisan nature out of the politics. So it won't be a one-party state, it will be a non-partisan state. And what we mean by that, Mark is one of the original founders of this idea. The idea of us having, instead of us having private sector funding political parties, we have a publicly funded system that treats all candidates equally, and they get the same access to radio, television, newspaper, and so you're funding the candidate, not the party. Now the party can no longer fund candidates. The PSOJ can no longer fund candidates. Every candidate gets the same access to the media, the same access to internet, radio, television, and newspaper. What this will do, they'll now become beholden to the voters and no longer beholden to who can give them the most money to have an advantage in the campaign. So we'll move from party to people, from party to people. So now, because the party is no longer so prominent in the process, the people now get to look at the candidates. The candidates no longer have money to buy votes because they're being given the same platform. Mark used to call it a debate system. You know, we do debates, but this is bigger than just debates. Now you have, as a candidate, when you sign up and you meet the requirements, you now can give your speech, which is on the TV profile like any other candidate. So a poor man have the same access now to TV as the rich man, the same access to newspaper, the same access to internet, and so on. And this will give the people a chance to focus on content instead of who has the most money to make the most noise. And that's how we create a non-partisan system, because party become less important and the people and the candidate now have greater access to each other without the noise and distortion of those who have the most money. By the way, this is lovely. This is going to be unique to Jamaica. We're now blazing a trail in terms of the kind of political system, the kind of representational politics, the kind of non-monetized politics, by making it more democratic and more accessible at the local level.
All right.
I think also that it removes the delegates, because delegates can collude to see who they want to select for each parish. Whereas in our system, the candidate goes out and gets nominations from their own constituency.
Yes.
So we don't provide candidates for each parish. They have to submit them. They have to submit their application, so to speak, and their interest in running for the parish. Mm-hmm. We vet them the criminal aspect of things, make sure that they're not criminals, but they have to be respected by their peers. They're the ones who are going to run their parish, not us. You know, we're just an umbrella for people who want to represent their own constituency. You know, which is the most democratic way to have. I mean, it almost mimics the African system, where you'd have the respected people actually running, making decisions for the collective good. You know, so if people understood how important the UIC's manifesto is, I think that they would, the little squabbles, if they look on the bigger picture, all right. I understand there are growing pains, okay, when you start a new party. Believe me, yes. I'm amazed at how far we've gone on the backs of Mr. Patterson and his wife. I mean, they've done a lot of work, you know. I mean, I
can imagine.
I have seen his wife, Mrs. Patterson. You can tell she's not a political person, but she's a a woman that loves people.
Yes.
Also, you know, I have a camera, right? And if I show you some pictures, you'll probably what you think is a professional photographer. I follow them around, but that's so who I am. I take pictures. And sometimes I see her holding a little baby. You know, I remember one time they're fixing her car in a not so nice part of town. Because when I fix my vehicles, whoever give me the best price, that me deal with.
Sure.
So I called Mr. Patterson and said, hey, there's a guy that can fix a brake up in my town, you know. And he came there and, you know, he's fixing the brakes, and I saw his wife outside of camera range, picking up this young girl and engaging as a mother would. And it was the purest form of expression. See, and she had no idea that she had no idea that she was being recorded.
Yes, sir.
She didn't know, you know, and you know, I just hope that we can look on the bigger picture as Jamaicans, and realize that this is the chance that we have to change the trajectory of Jamaica. And we have to really have a meeting of the mind, so to speak, and have all persons who are not who are affected, who have issues, and hammer them out, because there's a greater concern than what we have in our own movement right now. There's a greater concern that needs, and it's our concern is pale in comparison to what's going on in the political realm in Jamaica today.
I'm going to just inject something right now. I'm coming to you, Sir President. A lot of individuals do realize and welcome the opportunity that has been presented by the United Independence Congress. What is in the space currently is a few who have access to certain platforms and a certain following. They have an agenda. They are being coerced to do what they are doing. But the masses of the people is welcoming. They know what's there. They appreciate of it. The president had made a comment earlier about Singapore. What I want to inject into the brain of the audience right now. This brethren named Lee Kwan came to Jamaica, observed the model that we had when Jamaica was successful. For the newer generation, there was a point in time when the Jamaican dollar superseded the US currency in value. Understand? What Lee Kwan did was to take the model of how we operated to the fullest of the fullest letter, and implemented it into his country. President can elaborate more on that. Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
I just have to interrupt you a little bit on it, just to make sure that, you know, we get the full picture. Singapore,
clarification is good.
Singapore's leader, Lee Kuan Yew, was a brilliant man, and what he did is something that I have tried to do. He went to many countries. He was schooled in England, where he did law. He went to Canada. He went to Australia. He went to New Zealand. He went all over the place. And what he did was to look at every country and see what is it that they do good and what is it that they don't do so good. In his book, From Third World to First World, he actually mentioned Jamaica in very unfavorable terms because of some practices which he saw that we had here. But what he did is what we didn't do. The first thing Lee Kuan Yew did, which is very important, was to ensure that it was unequivocal that his government would not tolerate any form of corruption whatsoever. That's the number one thing he did. And so he stamped out corruption at the get-go, to the point where he sacrificed his own friend, who was caught with a taint of corruption, who was also a founder of his party and a founder of his a member of his first government, and a close friend of his for life from childhood. And he allowed him to suffer the consequences of being even slightly tainted by corruption as a minister of government. So he set the tone from the top. You always heard the UIC talk about top down,
Right.
dealing with yeah. So he did from the top down. The second thing he did was to make sure Singapore was one of the safest country on the planet by having a police service that was very, very well trained and focused on solving problems at the early set, the community level. He followed that up by making Singapore one of the cleanest and greenest space on earth. And then he also ensured a very orderly society. And he topped all of that off by making education a #1 priority. The brightest Jamaican math student is Singapore's Dunces math student. The brightest one in Jamaica is Singapore's Dunces. Now, so he found the model, and I want to give him full credit, Babatunde.
Yeah.
It is not so much like he borrowed anything from Jamaica. He looked at Jamaica, he looked at all the other countries. He came here and he looked at what was going on, just like he did in other countries. And I have done the same thing. I've been to Ghana. Ghana is 30 million people. I said there are 30 million Jamaicans. Ghana is so much like Jamaica. When you go there, you're going to be shocked to see, like, you're looking at yourself. These are all Jamaicans that just speak a little bit differently because of they still have much of their African,
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
Now, but what I discovered in Ghana, this was very important. Ghana has 30 million Jamaicans. I call them Jamaicans. The people of Ghana, 30 million. They have a massive country, swallow up Jamaica. They have gold, they have oil, they have diamonds, they have fertile lands galore. And guess what? They also adopted the same model of governance we do, which is the British colonial parliamentary partisan system. And so they have the same problems as us and underperform the same way we underperform. What I've observed in my travels, going to all these countries, Jamaica is suffering from the system it has chosen. And that system has cultured us into corruption, which is the opposite of Singapore, where their system has cultured them into being anti-corrupt. They're cultured into being clean, we're cultured into being dirty. They're cultured into being orderly, we're cultured into being disorderly. That's leadership. That is the governance model. That is the effects of governance. And so the UIC now, by the very design of our model, by the design of our governance, and by the leadership that we're going to provide Jamaica, we're going to reculture Jamaica into being a safe, clean, and orderly country that respects itself, respects its citizens, and will create a space where corruption does not find any easy lodgment. That's
All
where
right.
we're
Excellent. So while we prepare the reculturization of Jamaica, Sonia, we're gonna allow you a minute to make a comment. Because we're closing this section now, we're gonna go into questions, and of course, you may have follow-up comments from those questions. But a minute to you, Sonia, and then Mark, the same for you. And after that, we go into just questions now. We have a lot of questions, which we're gonna do our best.
Oh, you have a lot. You have questions coming in for online, right?
I did some things before and made some notes, so I have
because
that.
I had a follow-up question from Mr. Patterson. And I wanted was to ask him, without a UIC government, where does he see Jamaica in a few years, right?
Oh my, if we don't listen, if the Jamaican people does not avail themselves of what we're offering, Jamaicans are going to become tenants and squatters in their own country. Other nations are going to take over all of our assets. They're either going to buy them or they're going to destroy them, extract them like the mining, and leave us bare. Our school system continues to produce very poor outcomes, and those who are good are exported quickly abroad, as economic refugees. So what we're doing, we're building a concentration of failure in our system. So you're getting more failure than successes, because the successes quickly leave the country. So the failure population, those that the school system fail, they're becoming more and more and more the norm. And that's why you have the bleaching. That's why you have all of the problems that you wonder what's wrong with the brain, because it's not well developed. So our dollar is going to get far worse than it is now. Our inflation rate is going to continue to get out of control. Our crime rate is going to become fully epidemic, worse than it is now. And you can see the trajectory. What I'm saying is not rocket science. You have seen over the 78 years that the value of our dollar has gone down by more than 98%. You have seen where inflation over the same period have gone up by over 800%. You have seen the crime rate continues to skyrocket. So all that's left now is more and more Jamaicans will be unemployed or employed in the low sector. You notice we're now talking about importing skilled labor. And by the way, I hope everybody come out on May 31st. We're going to be
hold on, Sir President. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Take it slow.
All right.
Get a sip of little water. Make sure you Jamaica and the world. This is big. This announcement is gigantic, humongous, powerful in its simplest of terms. Sir President, it's your time now.
Okay, you want me to
No.
I thought you wanted me to hold off. So
No.
May 31st.
Right
May 31st. Write that down.
Wet your palate.
9 a.m. at the Emancipation Park. You're going to see a flyer with more details, but write that down. We're going to be looking at the rights and freedoms of Jamaicans right across the board. We're looking at our skilled workers. We have a plan for you, our skilled workers. We have a plan for you, our public sector workers. We have a plan for you, all Jamaican workers, to protect your rights and restore your dignity by ensuring that Jamaica provides jobs and provides you a level of pay that is commensurate with your productivity. We're going to make sure that the current threat to our well-being by those who want to sign away our sovereignty to the World Health Organization is stopped in its tracks. It doesn't matter what they've signed already. We, the Jamaican people, are the final authority on what we will allow in our country. So all we have to do is come together on May 31st at Emancipation Park, where you'll get further instructions. And we are going to stop this government in its tracks and protect the workers of this country, protect the families of this country, and protect the entire population of this country from those who want to take away not only our rights, but even our bodies. So come out on May 31st, 9 a.m. at Emancipation Park, and you'll see more later on. Thank you, Mr. Babatunde.
Excellent. All right. So, Mark, it's now your turn. And then we move into the questions. If you don't have a comment, we just move right into the questions.
Yeah, on Singapore, a friend of mine said to me earlier that it's a little unfair to compare Singapore to Jamaica because England created a buffer class by the injection of a lot of Chinese in Singapore. He also said that it's also still a repressive state, and we need to be careful how we compare Singapore to Jamaica because we do not want to be like Singapore in a lot of ways. There's a level of discipline that is necessary for any country to do well. We get that.
Yes.
But too much mention of Singapore might be doing a disservice to a movement in terms of comparing or trying to be like Singapore. The second question, which is...
Let's deal with the first one first, one at a time. So Singapore got independence in 1965. We got independence in 1962 from the same Britain. Singapore in 1965 had nothing that Jamaica had. Singapore had religious wars, they have racial problems, they have linguistic problems, they had a major communist battle on their hands. They were just coming out of Japanese occupation, which decimated their economy and everything. Very bad shape. And their leader, Lee Kuan Yew, was able to, in one generation, turn it around and made them a very, very successful country. They were a third world country and they became a first world country. There's no other country that you can compare Jamaica to on a one-on-one basis. Singapore is 1/15 the size of Jamaica with no they didn't have all the agricultural assets we had or the bauxite or anything like that. and they turn that around by investing in human capital. It is very wise for us to learn from Singapore, because what they are experiencing now, the citizens of Singapore, high income, a safe environment, a clean environment, a very healthy environment, and their children are doing very, very well. I can bet you any well-thinking Jamaican would trade places with Singapore today if they had the opportunity. It doesn't matter what other negatives you can find. You can always find negative. If you go to Barbados, you'll find negative. If you go to Dubai, you'll find negative. The bottom line is this: they have taken a very bad situation, and in one generation, a great leader has turned it around. It is very wise for us to benchmark ourselves against a country which has successfully overcome similar odds and more difficult odds than us. How can a country the size of St. Thomas quadruple, make themselves 100 times better than Jamaica by GDP standards, by health standards, by safety standards? It's impossible for them to be as successful as they are, and yet still they are. And every country in the world that had sense look at Singapore and say, what an amazing achievement. And I am not prepared to downplay their accomplishment simply because it makes me feel better that, okay, I don't want to compare myself with whoever. Let us compare ourselves. I want us to compare ourselves with the Netherlands. I have been there several times. How is it this small European country, smaller than most, much smaller than the US, don't have the kind of daylight that we have and tropics that we have? They have snow. They have a whole heap of water problem. And they are the second largest exporter of food in the world. In the world. We better compare ourselves. Let's benchmark ourselves. Hold on.
Well, Joseph.
Hold on. Let's benchmark ourselves. Let's benchmark ourselves against countries who have, against the odds, did great things. We, against the odds, did great things in sports. Against the odds, great things in music. Now I want us to, against the odds, do great things in our political system and in our economic system, because we can.
Well, would you agree? Would you agree that a better trained athlete would outperform an athlete that is not trained?
Well, of course, yes.
Okay, well, the Jamaican government, we were given a constitution by our former colonialists. The constitution and the two-party system was designed by our colonial masters. That in itself is an impediment to our progress. Wouldn't you agree with that, sir?
Yes, and the same thing was given to Singapore, and they decided to change it.
I understand that, but what I'm saying to you, though, it's hard to compare the two when you have dysfunctional governments in successive governments in Jamaica, compared to a government in Singapore that made the right decisions. No, we are trying to put together a non-partisan democracy, which is the first time in the history of Jamaica that we are actually putting a process together that is been crafted by Jamaicans for Jamaicans. So it's a little bit unfair to compare us, because the governance was much different.
Mark,
all right, hold on
a second. Hold on, this is ridiculous. How can you say we can't compare? We must compare. We're saying, why didn't our leaders lead us the way in the same era? The same era. We're not talking two different eras. 1965 and 1962 are very close.
Mm-hmm.
They were both given a bad constitution by the UK.
Yes.
They were both given independence by the UK. They were both raped as colonial islands by the UK. But their leader, Singapore's leader, Lee Kuan Yew, was so effective that he was able to win back-to-back election, because he was able to demonstrate to his people that he truly cared. You know why he won? Because he showed them he was not afraid to tackle corruption from the very beginning. If Bustamante in 1944 when he first won, and in 1962 when he first won, if Bustamante had set the right tone for Jamaica, if he had the depth of leadership like Lee Kuan Yew, if he had ensured that he stamped out corruption, which stole so much money, where they borrowed money to build schools and build half as many schools for twice as much the cost, and all that money he allowed as prime minister to be stolen and cemented corruption in this country. If he had not done that, Jamaica could have been just as good or better than Singapore. And when the PNP won 18 and a half straight years, if they were to use those 18 and a half years to lay out a proper vision for Jamaica like I am doing now, and to lead Jamaica on a revolutionary path to break away from the colonial past, create a true republic, and make the Jamaican people independent and powerful, the people would never have voted them out after 18 and a half years. They would have shown their worth, and Jamaicans would have continued with them. But both parties, when they had the opportunity, Bustamante, the first 10 years he had it, and again at independence he had the next 10 years, and in those 20-year period, Busta and the JLP failed the Jamaican people, and the PNP, when they had the opportunity, 18 and a half years straight, they failed the people. Let us compare the leadership of Singapore, the governance.
Okay, one last thing with Singapore, and then a final question. My friend also said that because of the East-West issue with in the Cold War, Singapore had great access to Western markets, favorable access to what do you call it, to sideline China. So in other words, they had more opportunities for success based on the East-West issues that we had with China and so on.
Okay, Mark, let's look at it carefully. In the 1960s, China was enemy number one with the USA because they were a communist country.
Okay.
They were not given favored nation status until Bill Clinton years in the 1990s. So no benefits there. Secondly, the Cold War was going on in earnest in Singapore as it was in Jamaica. It's just that Michael Manley chose to align himself in a way that brought out the worst of our nearest trading partner, while Singapore was more diplomatic and played both sides effectively. So Jamaica, which was just off the shores of America, should have actually done much better than Singapore because they were better placed than Singapore to reach a market of 350 million people immediately, while Singapore had to go through a much longer range. So Singapore was disadvantaged. They were closer to China, which put them at a disadvantage. They were further away from America, which put them at a disadvantage. But what they did was to turn disadvantage into advantage. Number one, Lee Kuan Yew did the opposite of all the other Asian tigers. He made English the common language of his people when the others chose a different language. Number two, he made sure education was number one so that he had bright people. So all the companies from the West wanted to set up head office there and use the bright Singaporean. And number three, he understood transshipment, and he made Singapore a major transshipment hub when Jamaica was playing games and did not realize their strategic location. So if we want to learn, let us not make excuses, but analyze and understand the opportunities missed so we don't miss them again.
All right. Excellent. So watch me now.
Yeah, final question.
Wait, Ma. Hold up. I realize that there is, because of the indiscipline of many of the natives here on the island, I realize that there's this sort of fear or scare, or if I am, so part of my life work on earth, I am a FIFA accredited football coach. My preparation is what going to allow me either to draw a match, lose it, or win it. Now, in addition to that, I have to look now at who I'm coming up against. I am also looking at coaches who are successful. I may look at their methodology and so on. I may apply some of what they did along with my own creativity and skill. I am yet to see what is wrong if we are in this decadent situation that we find ourselves in, and we are looking to those who were in a similar situation and how they went about uplifting themselves out of the mess. I see no issue. We're not saying everything in Singapore is all perfect, but we're looking at the good things that they are doing, have done, and will be doing. We are now implementing that in a system that we know can work in Jamaica to better the lives of the citizens, of the people that will live here, the people that were in the liverspora, aka diaspora. It benefits everyone. So we must now look at people, because if we really want change, you know, we cannot look at those who are not successful at making change for bring change to we. It's the people that will do the right thing and I get the right result. So now, Mark, I know you want to follow up. Take 30 seconds and follow up because we have questions now. Just work with me. You've been doing good. Excellent. We are going nice and the thing fiery. But respond in 30 seconds, Mark, because we have to take questions now. Go ahead.
No, this is almost like a regression, because he's answered this question to me in a satisfactory manner. But one of my viewers asked me to ask him this question.
Okay.
So like I said, I was satisfied with his answer, but it needs to be out there. The person wants to know if the house that was built or helped, Mr. Patterson helped that gentleman to build a house or something, if the money came from UIC funds or his personal account, personal funds.
Mr. President. Mike.
So the money for the house that was built came from my personal funds. So they're talking about my Labor Day project. So for Labor Day, I found a homeless man in the Elam community of Northeast St. Elizabeth, which is my constituency. And I worked together with a number of community members to provide free labor. And so I would pay for a substantial amount of the material to build him this house. Before I entered into this, my constituents know that I don't do handouts. So I made it clear to him that I'm not giving you this money just so. I'm going to give you a contract for some work, and I'm going to pay you up front for this work so that you can get a house built now, since all of us might come together now on Labor Day and build this one-room house for you. To which he and his family were most grateful and said they love this. They said they like my approach because they don't like the just little handout thing or charity, so he was happy that he's going to get a job. But of course, we couldn't wait to say we're going to let you work now while you're still homeless. So we build a house for him now, so he's not homeless anymore. As of now, he has a house, but now he also has a job that he's going to work on a contract and pay back that money, and will give him his dignity as a man, that he has worked for the money that has built his small one-room home. That's the way Joseph Patterson operates. I do not like the handout thing. I like to help people by empowering them, and I've empowered him, and he and his family are all happy today because of the gesture.
Well, in the front page of the Observer, that's what they said when they had you on the front page. It says Mr. Patterson is going to give you a hand up, not a handout.
Exactly. That was in
so
2016.
I mean, you're being true to your words.
Yes. Every time I work with people in my community, I give them jobs or I give them opportunities. I don't give them handouts. And so they have now settled in their mind that this is the leader that they have. At first, they tested me to see if I was going to be like other politicians. They called me names, they said bad things, and now they're coming around now when they see how I am consistent in my messaging. I'm not going to win votes just to win votes. I want to win the minds and hearts of Jamaicans through a different way of politics that will empower them, not one that's going to keep them down for another 78 years.
All right. We're going to move right into the questions. I think this was really nice, real fire and so on, in a good way. First question, Mr. President. How will you take care, or what is the plans from the United Independence Congress to improve the lives and the experience of the disabled or differently abled communities?
Sure. So the UIC has a very interesting tax policy, which is very different from what you're used to. We have a tax policy that is 10% income tax and income from all sources, which is to fully fund the things that government normally do. Then we have the GCT, which we have dedicated now to dealing with alleviating poverty, taking care of the children, the homeless, the disabled, senior citizens who found themselves on the wrong side of the track economically. So we have a complete dedicated fund to helping those who are vulnerable or otherwise disadvantaged. After the first 10 years of a UIC government, you're going to be hard pressed to find persons who are living in any form of squalor. We're going to follow again the Singapore model. In Singapore, they don't have squatter communities, they don't have ghettos, they don't have garrisons, simply because of design. So we're going to redesign Jamaica so that you just don't have those things. We're going to make sure that our disabled, our children, our families, our poor, every Jamaican has an opportunity to live a decent life by design. And that's what we're going to do.
All right. Sonia, you have a minute to either make a comment based on that or a question. If not, Mark, the same thing. If not, we move to the next question.
Okay. Next question. Mark, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Have you seen the houses they built on former farmlands in St. Catherine, Joseph?
I haven't seen them, but I am disturbed by them. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I call it the Folco.
Yeah, well,
I call my Folco too. I mean, it's the worst use of land I've seen in a long time. You know, a farmland that they're putting these small homes on. I mean, it's really a bad look for a country.
It is a part of the government's approach now. This government and the one before it, but it's in earnest now, to use our farmlands and convert them into housing schemes, which is so short-sighted and so destructive. That's why the UIC's policy is to have high-density housing using building up rather than building away broad. That's how we're going to house all of our poor people. All the poor that can't afford houses, we're now going to give them a decent condo. They're going to live very good quality life in a condo as opposed to going wide. What the UIC is going to do is take all of those farmlands and we're going to turn them into massive organic farms like they do in the Netherlands. And the people are going to have shares in those. This is an idea borrowed from Michael Manley. Michael Manley wanted Jamaicans to have a share in companies. That's what the idea he was trying to put across, but he didn't understand the economics properly to make it work. I have borrowed it and retailed it now to make them the shareholders in the land, which is their land. So all the crown lands we're going to give to the people of Jamaica. So you now are a landowner by virtue of having shares in a land that's going to be productive. Why am I not going to break up the land into small parcels? Because it's going to be very inefficient and low productivity. We're going to have massive organic farms which are collectively owned by shareholders. The Jamaican citizens own this. They're not necessarily doing the work. Professionals will do the work. Qualified persons will do the work. Persons who want to be in that industry will do the work. But like oil, like an oil-rich country where the citizens get a dividends from the oil, now the Jamaican people will get a dividends from a massive organic agricultural sector, which will make us the largest exporter of organic food in the world and give us massive foreign exchange. Our dollar will quickly revalue together with our community tourism product.
All right, excellent. This all of what's taking place here, I need to remind the audience what you just heard from the president of the United Independence Congress is listed in what the UIC developed. They took a document, two documents, they concise it. So you have the document, the local government election manifesto, and the manifesto for the general election. From those two documents, they made what is known as the UIC 10-point plan. Please, audience, please avail yourself of this document. Read it, study it, read it again, reason it out with your brethren, your sister. In it, there's something for every Jamaicans, whether you're in the womb, whether you're outside of the womb, whether you're on the way to the womb, there is something in it for everyone. A 10-point plan. Classic. Next question. So we see the Prime Minister gave incentives for those who choose to take the death injection, aka vaccine. What will the UIC do differently, or how will you implement measures to prevent the favors? So they said you should isolate from the people who didn't take the death injection. What sort of measures the UIC will put in place to prevent this sort of favoritism and segregation business from taking place?
Yeah, so as you know, the UIC is about protecting our individual sovereignty. So under a UIC government, nobody will ever have to face any form of discrimination like that by their own government. And that is why we need a constitution that protects us from government. The role of government is to protect your rights if it's done properly. And the role of your constitution is to protect you from government if it's written properly. So the UIC will produce a constitution that protects us from government and the government that protects our individual rights. And that's the key to preventing what you just described from ever happening again in a new Jamaica that we're going to create.
Any follow-up from either Sonia or Mark?
No, I'm fine with that. That answer resonates with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe in freedom.
I know it.
So we're all on board. We're all on board with that.
All right. What plans are in place? So let's say now the UIC is elected. Let's start with the local government election. So President, many of what you have shared, we want to get into the how. I call it the how ability. That's Babaton the word. Tell our audience how. For example, select anything that the UIC is going to implement.
Yes.
I want you to give them a clear path of how this thing will be funded and your expectation of a time period as to when you expect to implement this sort of change.
Sure, right? Sure. One of the grand ideas which might cause persons to pause when they hear it is that we're going to achieve a 98% home ownership rate in Jamaica. I go back to Singapore where they have over 92% home ownership rate. Their model, which is one I have borrowed and tailored and fixed a little bit better, their model is a form of government sponsored housing built with the private sector participating, which creates mass housing immediately upfront and allow the citizens to pay for it over a long period of time, including intergenerational mortgages, depending on the income level of the family. We will do a mix of housing, so we're not going to allow all poor people or all rich people to live in any sector. We're going to mix it. So you're going to have different sets of people coming together in one project. So you're not going to have any poor communities anymore. You're going to have cross-pollination because rich people, somebody may live in a big unit over here, so somebody a smaller unit, but they're on the same complex. In these condo structures, we're going to have what we don't have in Jamaica now, public parks that are well maintained, play areas for the children, daycare facility, a community center with the gym and the digital library for people to have access to education without having to have money because the digital library is free and available for all. So this is the model. Now, how we're going to fund this is the unique part. Jamaica has two key sources of funding. Apart from just saying we're going to collect taxes, here's the two key things. One is the organic gold that we can produce here. That alone is going to allow us to generate some $45 billion of new revenues by expanding our agri sector the ways I have described earlier. The next piece of this equation is the community tourism. Right now, Jamaica has a foolish system of tourism where we encourage people to come and go to all-inclusive environment, spend their money there and buy imported food, right? And even some imported entertainment. The UIC is going to push that system out so that what you have is the community, the tourism product is the community itself. So we're going to fix up all of our communities. From east to west, north to south, you're now going to have clean, decent, well-developed, tourist-looking areas. Like the entire community is made like a tourist destination. So we're not going to have a tourist destination. The entire Jamaica will become a tourist destination. The entire country, not a piece of Uchi or a piece of St. James or a piece of Portland, but rather all of Jamaica is now a tourist destination. What this is going to do is going to quadruple our tourist arrival. It's going to cause the ordinary indigenous farmer now to be able to sell his produce and his products into that market at the community level. He doesn't have to travel far or go cut a deal with a big hotel or whatever. Now he will have the market come to him in his own community where he's producing. So from the farm to the table, and the people now who come here will be in our guest houses, in our Airbnbs, in our homes. People who want to entertain persons in their homes and bring the tourists to the real life Jamaican experience. What this is going to do, Babatunde, Mark and Sonia, what this is going to do is going to massively increase our tourism revenue, but keep more of the money here. In the current model, the money goes back out because the resort is owned by foreigners and the food they're eating is imported food, which we're paying the money back out. So we're now going to keep much more of the money here. That money is going to go straight into the hands of ordinary Jamaicans at the local level immediately, boosting their local economy and bringing back pride to their local communities. So these two initiatives, the agri initiative and the community tourism by themselves is going to revolutionize Jamaica. And on top of that, all the other sectors now, the emerging sectors, whether it's in AI or coding or whatever, those will now have the freedom to rise because we're going to remove the government gatekeeping that is holding back the other industries from doing well.
All right, take 50 seconds now, Sir President. Tell the audience how will a UIC government go about keeping most of that tourist dollar, so-called tourist dollar?
Sure. What's going to happen in the current system, right? In the current system, you go to a resort, the owners of the resorts are foreigners. So they have an incentive to send that money out of Jamaica when they make it. The food that they're using in those hotels, a lot of it is imported food. So again, they have to buy foreign exchange here to buy that food. So they're shipping our money out of the country and promoting farmers outside of Jamaica. In our new model, because we don't have that will still be there. We're not going to shut them down. They'll still be there. But now they're going to have to compete with truly local products. Because right now the government is blocking local development in favor of those. We're now going to open the market to the ordinary Jamaicans. So let's say Miss Sonia come home, right where she lives, wherever her place is, she can open up one room and she's going to have full access, not the whole for any thing coming between her. She will have full access to receive tourists and serve. We have that right now to some degree, but we're going to have it at a fuller level. Because we're now investing in the communities and keeping them clean, that's jobs now. So the people who are cleaning the streets, who are maintaining the lawns and grasses, the grass and the flowers and all the beautiful things we're now going to have in these communities. You have now created jobs which are substantiated by the tourism dollars coming in and by the agri exports going out. That's how we're going to keep the money in Jamaica and build our economy.
Yes, sir. You're going good, man. All right. So
let me ask one question.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Patterson. We see that a lot of these foreigners like to tell us what to do in our country, right? How do you plan on handling those foreigners who wants to dictate to us how we should handle our business?
Yeah.
How do you plan on handling them?
Well, I mean, right now, if you think about it, the only reason why they can do that today is because they have a government who cares more about them than the people. When you reverse that, and now you have a government that is for the Jamaican people, nobody now come around with you. You understand? Because they're going to be on their P's and their Q's. So we're now going to have a Jamaican government that is truly of the people, for the people, and by the people. You're going to have, for the first time, for example, a police force, which is no longer a force, but a service, which is not only here to serve and protect, but is now going to be required to respect the citizens of Jamaica. So with this new approach of revamping our police, revamping our government, and getting it to be people-friendly, Jamaican-friendly. For example, the government of a UIC is going to say, why should you be standing in long lines, for example, at government offices? We don't want that. A waste of time. That. So we're going to change system to make it like it costs you less in time and effort to get things done in this country. So for the first time in the history of Jamaica, the people of Jamaica are going to now be at the top of the ladder, as opposed to just the elites. In Jamaica today, the elites can send a bearer to do whatever they want for them. So they're not suffering the indignity of the inefficiencies. In a UIC government, we are not going to make you the dignitary, the ordinary citizen. No matter how poor you are, no matter where you come from, the system will be designed to serve you with dignity and efficiency for the first time in the history of Jamaica.
Do you find it hard selling that to the public, though, to the people? To
no, I don't. No, the only people who are with this message,
Sorry.
the only people I find who have a hard time with this message, the only people are the elites in Jamaica, the intellectuals. They will argue you to death. But if you simplify this and talk to the man on the street, there's not one Jamaican who wouldn't want a more simpler and efficient service-oriented country today. There's not one Jamaican who would want a police service which is community-based as opposed to being like a SWAT team that comes in and invade their community. You understand? And bully them and beat them up or whatever. They want a police service that is a part of the community where you can respect. Listen, today I went to court, and Mark, you're going to love this. You're going to love this, Mark. I went to court today. I finished the court and I come outside and I'm talking with my supporters. And the police came at the top of the stairs and they called me. Everybody get afraid. And what am I calling for? They said, come here, Mr. Patterson. We need to have a talk with you. I have no idea what they're talking about. And they escorted me to a room. When I went in there, it's full of police officers. You know what they wanted? For me to tell them in my own words, in my own presence, about the UIC.
Oh.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't know what, because they didn't tell me that the behavior as if I did something wrong. And I said, and I'm like, my God, I want this. So I said, whatever it is, I didn't do it. And it's a joke, you know? And then the lady said, come man. And she and the man carry me, walk down a little lane, a little corridor. And then they open a door and we're going to appear police sitting in there. I said, I want this now. And they said, start here, so. I said, okay. So what did it say? Tell us what the UIC now, because we hear all these things now. We want to know if we're going to really do for the police. And when I talk with them and share with them the new vision for the police service, how we're going to make them upstanding citizens again, that are respected by the people again. I want the police, when they walk in the community, every boy and girl respect him, because him get good pay, him drive a good car, him living in a decent house, and he's a person that they can draw upon for solving dispute before they become massive. You understand? He must be a part of the community, going to the community center, the police youth club. He must be a part of the social work of the community. And so that when there's a little problem, mama can call him and say, come talk to me, 17-year-old. And then go give him a talk. And so now the boy settle down and nobody go in a certain direction. So you stop the problem from the early stages. But that can't happen if the people can't respect the police. If him have to do 2 and 3 jobs for kind of keep him head afloat and can't buy a house and can't own a little car, nobody now respect him. So make sure that the people respect the police by putting the police in a position to be respected, and make sure you assign them so that they live where they work. They're a part of the infrastructure. So the police, the pastor know them, the nurse know them, the teacher know them, and the little boy and girl that go to school know them and respect them and can heal them up and can look forward to them giving them counsel and advice about life. That's what we need to know.
So while we're up on that topic, or in this segment, we are talking about police and so on. What will a UIC government do? So we know we're talking about the borders, changing the force to be a service and all of that. But there's something currently where I plague the people them. Plague like to come to the point of disease, like this gang thing and this criminality. And the media has taken on promoting that as if it is something good. How will the UIC government know? So we know about, as I said, the border, all of that. So what will be done now about the gangs them?
Okay.
Vampire, the bloodsuckers them now?
Yes.
What will a UIC government do now?
Yeah.
Or as soon as you're elected to get rid of this?
We have a very novel approach, which takes a little bit of patience to understand. The first part of it is that you have to understand that the vast criminal empire of Jamaica is not managed in the streets. It's managed from the protection, from the connection, from the politicians and the big business leaders who dress up nice and come before us in jacket and tie and say nice words, but then they're a part of the undercurrent. So the UIC will take a top-down approach to investigate and understand what these persons are doing so we can find the kingfish. But secondarily to that, we're going to have what is called a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which comes with an amnesty program. We're going to incentivize criminals to actually come forward and tell their story in exchange for getting in a program that will help them to transition back into society and get a clean slate to move on. Because many of them, to be honest with you, were caught up in this thing without even wanting to. You were a little boy in your community and a man give you a gun and say, go take it down this way. And if you don't carry it, you know what happened to you and whatever, right? So you kind of find yourself caught up into these things. A politician comes into the community and they said, okay, round up people who want to vote. And they assign a big don, give him a contract, give him stuff, and then get to know kind of own the community and own things. And it makes it hard for some of these young people to escape what's happening. So we want to give them an opportunity, an out, by coming to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, turn in the guns, give us credible information, help us to now arrest and charge and convict those who did not come forward and give us the details that we need, and then allow us now to have a smaller group left to track down and eliminate. But we want to first give them this out, this opportunity. It must not be, it's finished, we're just going to kill you. We need to find a transition and realize that our government has been the bridge to them getting into criminality. Now let us be a bridge to get them out of criminality. This will come with also a work fair program, where we now provide work for those who don't have any work so that they can get back into the work stream. The young ones coming out of school into the YES program, the Youth Employment Solution, so that they don't have to immediately be enticed into the gang. So we get them out of that. The older ones, we put them into the work fair program and gradually convert our country out of criminality into being a highly productive society.
All right, but when a guy that seemed very soft and very mildish now, Sir Patterson, in terms of the response to a boy who can take a video or a phone and shoot a video, say kill and collect, smoke and forget, self-employed with a 45 and a rifle. This sort of measure that you spoke about seem very gentle, sir. And people who want to return, who are known as returning residents, the communication I got from them is not happy with this sort of gentleness towards these vampires, as I call them. So let us say now the UIC is elected into government on the 27th of May 2023. The criminals them who is not interested in, and none of them sort of truth and reconciliation and all them something else. The people them are wait for your president.
No, they're not. What they're not going to hear, like we already have the massive forceful action that you're talking about, and that's the police is well equipped for that. We have had the Adams, we have had the Kingfishers, we have done all of these brutal attacks in trying to say that we're going to eliminate. We can kill as many of them as we want. It won't solve the problem. What I'm saying is we must create an out, and we must empower the police to do their work. The police must have the training, they must have the tools, they must have the ability to collect evidence. Because if you catch a criminal and you can't convict him, it doesn't make no sense. So we have to have those things. I'm not focusing on the kind of cowboy approach where we're gonna go just hunt them down and kill them. Anybody can say that. You have to have a strategy that's actually going to work. And right now, if you look at 78 years, those ideas of us saying how much we're going to go out there and kill all of them, it hasn't worked. You know, we can try hard. If the family members are not going to tell you about the criminal because you haven't given them a reason, if the policeman don't have a reason to invest himself in truly fighting crime, you can't solve it. No matter, you can make grand pronouncement, we're gonna go do it. But if the policeman still have to go have 2 and 3 jobs to feed his family, he's not invested in doing this. So these soft things are the hard things. These apparently soft measures are the strategic measures that are going to work. The hard measures, which we've been talking about and trying, we lock down communities. Like right now, we have Zozo, we have state of emergencies. What does that do? We're going to a community, we lock it down, we scrape up all the boys we can find, and some of them were not doing anything wrong. They had a job and they lose their job. So we lock them up for a year or 2, or and they get some of them going there and meet worse guys than before. So we mess them up. We lock down the little entertainment activities in the community. So now we spoil up their little money-making business, right? And push them further into all kind of criminalities. It doesn't work. Then we claim we have Zozo. What is Zozo? We're going to have social intervention. What is that? We play some games. We have some police to do some musical things in the community. We put some social workers who are underfunded and underpaid in there, and then we finally move on to the next community. The criminals leave temporarily. They get a call from high command and tell them, well, come to just know, and they're gone. And then after the thing happened, and high command said, we're good now, man, and they go back in, and we have the same thing over and over and over again. We can't keep playing the same game and hope for a different result. We must change our approach.
Excellent. I must say this Zozo and all of these things that they're having, it's not working. It will not work, and these things are now like sewage pond. Block up and need proper flushing out and so on. None of what the present government has in effect is geared towards solving or preventing criminality. Every police officer know where the gangs are, know who the gang members are. They are not targeting these individuals.
And the reason why they don't.
Hold on, President. Hold on. Just don't forget that point. Because a lot of who is earning now is earning their money as a result of the high crime rate. For example, many of these so-called security companies, these all the ways to them have, like you said, it is geared at destroying a certain section of the society. So watch your normal people. I am not against the respect for law and the respect for life and all of that, but I'm not into tolerating vampires who are geared at creating mayhem and destruction on our people. So like the president said, I hear him talking about an overhauling of what we now know as both police force, the lack of justice right across for every individual within the island. Complete your point, sir. Then we'll take the next question.
Sure. I kind of forgot, but I want to add this on it. Because we're going to change the function of the army to become a truly border patrol unit.
Yes.
So to lock down our borders, we would have cut off the guns and the ammunition. If you don't have guns and you don't have ammunition, or if you have gun and you don't have the ammunition anymore, you've just cut down on some serious problems. By simply making our army truly what it should be, the protector of our borders, from custom to Coast Guard, and be out there, not in barracks, not sleeping in barracks. Out there, we have a war to fight right now. The war is crime. Not out there dealing with civilians in the street. That's not where the army should be. They're not trained for that, except in a state of emergency. Get them on the borders to stop anything that shouldn't come into the country from coming into the country. But we have to wrap up now. You know, it's we're one.
Right.
We're
Just let me take 9 more of the questions. We have about 50, but we'll have to come again. Approximately 3 decades ago, in schools, we had something called crisp and clean.
Yeah.
Every teacher used to teach, I as a picnic, boy, this is the way how you keep your own classroom clean, the surroundings have to clean, you have to clean. What will the UIC government do? Make sure our nation become that clean place again. And tell us what you're going to do, and tell us how this will be implemented and which part of the society are going to start. It's a triple barrel question, but take the first one.
Sure. Generally speaking, we're going to have what Jamaica lacks. One of the things we lack right now is a public works department where you actually have people hired and trained and deployed to maintain, to clean up, to plant up, to design, and to maintain the country. We don't have that right now. What we have is a hodgepodge of things, and we give MPs money and tell them to go chop areas and do this foolishness. Because what you're doing, you're wasting money, you're creating corruption. So we're going to stop all that foolish practice. We're going to have a public works department where it has proper engineers, civil engineers, environmentalists, scientists, landscaping professionals, and teams of workers who are trained and deployed to maintain the country. So it means your sidewalks, your parks which we don't have right now, public parks, public spaces, public buildings, all these things will be designed and maintained, just like in Singapore. I keep going back to them because they've done it. So you're going to simply have the place being cleaned up, designed properly, and maintained. It's like, when you go to the Prime Minister's house, you drive by his big house, it's planned. He planned out his house carefully, right? He planned out to have a nice lawn, to have beautiful flowers, to have walls, to have cameras, to have light, to pick the colors carefully. If you go up by his house, the outside is properly maintained, the landscape is properly maintained. All I'm saying is, let's do that for the entire country now. Let's just plan the entire country to look good. You understand me, Miss Sonia?
Yes, I do. Very much.
Mark,
I'm from Spanish Town, I know.
Yeah. Mark, where you live in Florida, I've been to your house, I've seen your beautiful community. Don't you think that all of Jamaica can look like that? You don't think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, why not? Why can it be done in Singapore, in Florida, in a tourist area? For example, if you go down to Negril, you might get a nice area. They cut the lawn properly, they make the walkway properly for people to walk. Why? Tourists are more important than we. Tourists must have nice walkway, sidewalk to walk on, with grass planted on both sides, with little palm trees dotting it, with nice flowers. Why all the tourists must get that? Why we can't be treated like tourists by our government and make sure that we have proper sidewalk with grass cut and flowers cut and street light properly hanging, solar lights and stuff. Why we can't have that? No, the UIC says we must have that. The ordinary citizen must have a well-maintained society.
By the way, speaking of tourism, are you against the Tourism Incentive Act?
The Tourism Incentive Act? No, listen. For me, tourism is very simple. Take care of the country and make people want to come here and enjoy it. You're not doing it for the tourists. You're doing it for we, and then the tourists come and enjoy it. So it's not the act which I care about. What I care about is the action of the government. Do we make sure that Tivoli, Waterhouse, Waterford, Elam, Breeze River, Gutters, Pepper, do we make sure Spanish Town, all of Portmore, De La Vega City, do we make sure that the whole place, Mark, the whole place look good for we? And it's so nice that a tourist will want to enjoy it too. And so when they come now, we say, welcome to our Jamaica. When you leave Norman Manley or you leave Sangster and you drive out, the same beauty you might see inside of it is the same thing you're traveling along all the way to your destination. Whether you're going to Denham Town or you're going to Spanish Town, whether you're going to Lucy or you're going to Macon, it's the same beautiful stretch of road, the same decor, and you feel good about yourself and good about the experience. That's what.
One last question. Because I have to run.
All right, Mark.
This one last question.
Go ahead.
Somebody mentioned that. Well, I spoke to you about it before. That sometimes the best intentions of a leader runs contrary to the interest of another country. Now, we all must admit that Michael Manley was sabotaged in the 70s. Although his policies chased a lot of people away, I think he was a little bit, bumptious in his attitude and whatever. But let's be fair.
Right wing.
How will the UIC deal with outside forces? Like the IMF and so on, who implement these draconian measures to stifle our economy. How do you prevent them from interfering in our country?
Yeah, the way to do that, Mark, the way to do that is to learn from the past. You have to be a diplomat. And I studied Lee Kuan Yew very carefully. Again, it's the same era as Michael Manley. It's very same era. He diplomatically negotiated with the same lions that Manley had to negotiate with. Manley did not carefully draw his hand out of the lion mouth and punch the lion in the process, right? Lee Kuan Yew was very diplomatic in the way he pulled his hand out of the lion's mouth, and so they succeeded. Diplomacy is key. Listen to me carefully. You cannot insult your closest trading partner, your largest lender, and the source of most of your grants without having a backup. Manley did that. You cannot insult, listen to me carefully, you cannot insult your closest trading partner. Jamaica, its closest trading partner, its greatest trading partner was and still is the US. We get 70% of our tourists from the US, okay? 15% from Canada, 13% from UK. Today, back in Manley's time, it was even more. It was 80%. Now, hold on. We also bought most of our goods from the US. If you're going to have a position, you must be strategic and not go in like you have more power than you actually have. And Manley was too brash, he was too undiplomatic, and Jamaica paid a dear price for it. The UIC is going to implement our policies without creating enemies. We're not here to fight America. We're not here to support communism or socialism or globalism. We're here to defend the rights of the Jamaican people, and we must do so diplomatically and effectively and put Jamaica first, not our relationship with any other country first. Jamaica first. And we must always do what is in the best interest of Jamaica, no matter what. We must put Jamaica above even my personal preferences or my personal likes or dislikes. Protect the Jamaican people, protect the Jamaican economy, and make sure we win at the end of the day. That's my strategy.
Yeah, but sometimes diplomacy don't work, you know. Sometimes there are people hell-bent on having their own way, you know. Sometimes a leader with the best intentions will have to go against people.
let us not rewrite history. The history is this. Michael Manley had great intentions, but had poor diplomatic skill. Michael Manley meant the people well, but did not understand economics properly, even though he was an economics major. But he himself said it, that he obviously didn't understand what he called a capitalist market, how it works. So I studied Michael Manley. I studied Seaga. I studied Buster and Norman, and I studied Lee Kuan Yew, and I studied Reagan, and I studied Thatcher, and I studied all of these people, so I could see what went right and what went wrong. And for Jamaica, what went wrong is that we were not diplomatic, and the people paid a dear price. Manley put his personal preferences ahead of the interest of the Jamaican people, and we paid for it. Seaga put his personal vendettas ahead of the Jamaican people, and we paid for it with 800 lives in 1980, more than 800 lives. Because, I could say more, but the bottom line is this. When the UIC takes over the government, we are going to defend the rights of Jamaicans and do so in a diplomatic way that protects our interests at all times.
And the public, the natives here and across the world, is seeing that currently because September last year, the UIC came out in full support of the rights of our people, preventing them and showing them how to assert that rights and avoid the debt injection being mandated by the wicked government. There's a question here for you, Mr. President. Again, currently now in our Jamaica land that some love and some hate, in schools, in government institution, the issue of sexual favors is used as a weapon. They either use it to prevent the good people from being promoted, whether it's the police force, the army, high school, prep school, primary school, all of that. How and what will the UIC do to prevent or to eliminate this wicked measure?
Yeah, it will be criminalized, and those persons will be treated as criminals and will pay dearly for it. We must stamp out all of those kind of corrupt practices, whether it's sexual favors, whether it's monetary favors, whether it's using a government position of privilege in order to extort the Jamaican people. All of these things are going to attract severe criminal penalties and fines, and we're going to make an example out of anyone who is caught in this. We're going to have a clean Jamaica, and by clean I mean in every sense of the word, from corruption to garbage. But we have to go now because.
All right. Sonia, take the next few minutes and either comment or question as we journey on to close.
Very, very, very enlightening as usual. Always learn something. So one Jamaica, one UIC.
Absolutely.
Both UIC.
All right, excellent. Mark, you may take a minute and offer your closing words or advice or comment.
I hope that we as Jamaicans get to a point in our lives where we do not have to depend on anybody, that we have to be nice to them and diplomatic to them to get to a point where we want to be. That's what I'd like to. That's where I'd love to be in my lifetime, where we're not beg or bow to nobody. I don't. That's not my style. Secondly, I hope that we can look on the UIC and the collective good that we're trying to bring to Jamaica. It's not a GLP thing or a PMP thing. It's a survival thing. Because if we don't unite as a country, we will have nothing left. So we need to come together and to find a way to be uniters in every sense of the word, that every Jamaican will feel that they are part of the growth of our country. And it's not just like the cliche of, out of many we are one. We're not one as yet. It sounds good on paper, but a lot of people are doing a lot better than some. And a lot of the policies are the ones that have created this, the members of our community to be disenfranchised. So we need more equity in our judicial process, where the rich will not only get due process, but the poor will get due process as well. Because if a poor man thief 3 sheets of zinc, him gone to jail. Politician thief millions and he gets due process and no jail time. So we need to really have some, a little more fairness in the judiciary and in our economic empowerment of our people.
Excellent. Well said. I think that's one of the reasons why the UIC was born. Mr. President, take 3 minutes, sir, and share with our audience a little bit about the JUMP program that I've been hearing you speaking about, and its launch on the 31st of May at the Workers Unite Rally and Job Exposition at the Emancipation Park.
Yes, I'm going to defer saying much on JUMP right now, only because we have to close off, and I want to just give a closing statement. So at the rally coming up, you'll learn more about JUMP. Please turn out on the 31st of May to hear more about the Jamaica Upliftment Monetary Program of the UIC, which is designed to build the grassroots economy and to liberate the Jamaican people through financial education and capacity building. Now, my closing statement, I want to speak directly to those who have become a divisive figure in the organization and have created a lot of challenges for us and have disrupted the flow and growth of the movement. I want to offer yet again an olive branch to all of you. I want to encourage all persons who are in any way unhappy or dissatisfied with my leadership in any shape or form to pay their membership dues, make sure they're a member of the UIC, and offer themselves for leadership in the organization. Join the organization instead of divide the organization. Present your ideas and ideals to the Jamaican people within the organization and run for office. That's the best way for you to serve the Jamaican people, not by any form of campaign to slander anybody in public, but rather come to the organization, let your voice be heard by being a member, participate in our internal discussions, offer yourself for office, whatever it is, whether it's president or vice president or whatever, and let us be one united body again. We have come this far. The Jamaican people are looking for us to help them at this moment. We have a local government election coming soon. We need to be ready for that. We should not be fighting each other. We should be fighting the system and fighting the enemy of our people and fighting against the efforts that are being made right now to destroy the Jamaican people. So I'm inviting you again, put down the guns that are aimed against ourselves and let's join hands, as in the logo of the UIC, join hands. You don't have to like me to work with me. You don't have to agree with me to work with me, because you can always be a part of the organization and openly share your views. If you have a different idea, if you think we should be going south instead of north or east, you can say that. The UIC affords everybody the opportunity to speak their mind. We just say be respectful, be courteous, and stand for office publicly. I would like somebody to run against me for president, but do it openly, not covertly. Come forward and present your ideas and ideals. Stand before the people honestly and speak. Don't try to denigrate anybody's character. Offer your solutions. What would you do if you were president? How would you make a difference if you were president? You don't need to tear me down. Just do well and let others see your good works, and they will vote for you if they think you're the better man or woman to be president. Don't kill the party. Help us to grow. Help Jamaica by coming to the party, joining, paying a membership dues, and participate in the process to build this movement and build Jamaica. Thank you.
Well said. In the
Well said, well
closing
said, well
section
said,
here now,
well said.
we give thanks to the audience, those who joined in all the way around Europe, the motherland, from New York, from Canada, from the Caribbean, Guyana, St. Lucia, Barbados, British Virgin Island, all of that. The natives on the island here, you heard it. The president spoke, Mark spoke, Sonia spoke, and I was privileged. It's an honor to be able to host something of this magnitude. To the production unit, Naika Williams, the divine team, that team of good people that you always need when you're doing like these things like these. So it's a special thanks to Miss Naika Williams, special thanks to Mrs. Babatunde, special thanks to our chairman, Winston Wright, special thanks to Sonia Mignot, special thanks to Mark Cameron. Indeed, it was very lively, very fiery, but I'm sure, based on what I'm seeing, that you love what was done tonight. And maybe if we reach over 100,000 views, maybe we come back with a segment 2. So till then, take very good care of yourself, watch your health, careful what you put in your brain, and always, always remember you are what you think and you are what you eat. Careful. The government is trying to make plans now to come back with their wickedness that was done to us for 2 years. If you never stand up and assert your rights, be ye sure and be she sure that the government will thief them. It's a one Jamaica,
One
one
Jamaica.
UIC, change
One Jamaica.
you can trust. Voting for UIC is a must. One Babatunde, many councillor candidates. Join us 31st of May, 9 a.m., Emancipation Park, Workers Unite Rally, and Job Exposition 2022. The UIC is looking forward to see you. Up and up. Left it us off now.
Love that. Yes.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Good
good night.
night. Good night.
Take care. All the best.
Respect.
Bye-bye.
All the best. Have a restful night.